Another one is convenience sampling, which should not be confused with purposive sampling, because in convenience sampling also the researcher himself chooses which kind of units he wants to select as sample. However, there is a major difference in purposive and convenience sampling. In purposive sampling, it does not matter whether the unit is convenient for the researcher to use or not, but in convenience sampling the researcher accesses or uses any of the units that are convenient or that are in front of him to be included in the sample. Now, all the units that are convenient to access may be included in the sample, but one advantage of this sampling is that there is no need to have a prior list of all the units in the universe. It is a very inexpensive method which makes it very popular among the researchers. However, convenience sampling cannot be used in empirical researchers, it could be used in qualitative researches. Let us take for example a company which has launched a new product in the market, wants to know what is the response of the public for that particular product. So, that company will access any of the people that it wants to, or it is coming across any place where the product is being sold, the company will take the responses or will take the feedback from those people. Another important kind of sampling that is done is cluster sampling. Cluster sampling means that kind of sampling in which the universe is divided into clusters. Now, we studied stratified sampling and we saw that the universe was divided into strata, but in stratified sampling the researcher himself was dividing the universe into different stratum. In cluster sampling, the clusters are already available or they are already made in the universe. To take a very simple example, let us say a researcher wants to conduct a study in an educational institution or a university. Now, there are various departments that are existing in the university. So, those departments will have various employees. Let us say the researcher wants to conduct a study on the women employees. So, each of the department will form a cluster. Now, the researcher will take into consideration all the clusters and he will draw out the samples from each of the clusters. That is one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is that sampling may be done in multiple phases. That is to say, the researcher has already taken out the samples from each of the cluster and he has studied them. Then he further goes into the sample into the cluster and takes out or draws out sample from them to conduct the study. Another kind of sampling which is very important is sequential sampling. It is a very convenient form of sampling which is also called as snowball sampling. So, sequential sampling and snowball sampling may be used synonymously. What is snowball sampling? It means that kind of sampling in which you just simply go on processing or go on collecting the data, and as you go on collecting the data you are forming the sample. So, sequential sampling is more or less a very ongoing process, it does not end. Let us say this kind of sampling is used basically in those kind of scenarios in which the respondents may be a hidden community or they may not be very outgoing community, or respondents may not be very outgoing in their responses, etc. So, in such cases the universe may be indefined or may be very ambiguous, and in such scenarios it is desirable that the researcher takes help of sequential sampling. So, for example, a researcher wants to conduct study in a red light area for prostitutes, and let us say the researcher wants to study whether the right to education is being given, or he wants to assess that what is the access to the RTE for the children of prostitutes. Such kind of places or such kind of people may not be very responsive, and it may be difficult to clearly define the universe for such studies. In such scenarios, sequential sampling is a very useful form of sampling. Another sampling that is very important is quota sampling. In quota sampling, we decide a characteristics on the basis of which we divide the whole population. So, let us say the researcher wants to conduct a study for different age groups of men as well as women. So he has taken into consideration let us say age group of 0 to 15, then 16 to 30, then 31 to let us say 40. These are the kind of age groups that he has taken into consideration. Now he will divide whole of the population into those age groups. Each of the age groups will be called one quota. Further, he will divide those age groups or those quotas into men and women, because that is the classification that the researcher wants. In such scenarios, he will have a particular number of people from each of the quota. So there might be X number of men in one age group, Y number of men in another age group, A number of women in one age group, B number of women in another age group. This kind of quota sampling is very helpful for in-depth investigation. Now he will calculate the proportion of each category to the universe, that is how many men in a particular age group are represented in the universe, and in the same proportion he will take out the sample from the universe from that particular quota. So quota sampling is a very effective sampling, because units from each category proportionately represent that particular quota, that particular category. Now another important kind of sampling is volunteer sampling, which is also very easy going sampling, I would say, because volunteer sampling, as the name suggests, is the kind of sampling in which the researcher himself volunteers to be a part of the sampling. So he himself will be participating in the research as a volunteer or as a participant. His own data will be collected by his own self. So don't you think there is going to be some form of personal bias? Yes, the answer is yes. So volunteer sampling is not a very desirable sampling. However, in some scenarios it is very useful, because the researcher may be having some kind of inputs which will be useful for his own study. Plus, if he is doing the research ethically and he is honest and genuine in his research, the inputs can be used and can be put to good use in the research. Another important kind of sampling is multi-stage sampling. Multi-stage sampling means sampling which is conducted at multiple stages. Now what happens is, in multiple sampling, we take a particular universe, we divide it into different categories or divide it into different areas. Okay, that is one kind of sampling. We have already divided into, let us say, clusters. Okay, so we have done cluster sampling at one stage. In each of the clusters, we will further do some other sampling. Let us say we are doing stratified sampling. In each of the strata, we are further doing some more sampling, let us say sequential sampling, or if not sequential sampling, let us say interval sampling. And in the smaller number of sample that we have now in each of the different clusters, we are further conducting sequential sampling, and that particular final sample will be the one that we will be using as a sample for our universe. Now multi-stage sampling is done in those scenarios where we have a huge population which is divisible into clusters. I will give a very small example to make this understand. So let us say a researcher or a research organization wants to conduct a particular study in the country of India. So first thing that they do is they divide the country into clusters. Now we have north zone, south zone, west zone and east zone. So there are 4 clusters. In each of the clusters, they may do, let us say, stratified sampling. So let us say let us assume that the researcher wants to conduct the study and one of his sampling traits is also geography. So he will divide each of the clusters. Within the clusters, he will divide the clusters on the basis of the geographical conditions into different strata. In each of the strata, the researcher or the researchers may further do purposive sampling or interval sampling. So in other words, the sampling is conducted at different stages and it goes down to a very small number of sample, but it is done in such a way which is very technical and it is very organized. Therefore, The proportionality may be a question, because after all we are going from a huge population to a very small number of people. It may be, the proportionality may be a question. However, because we have done sampling at multiple stages, so representativeness may not be that big a question. Multi-phase sampling is another twin brother of multi-stage sampling. The only difference between multi-phase and multi-stage sampling is that in multi-phase sampling, the sampling is also done in multiple stages, but at every stage the sample that you get is studied first. So, for example, in the example that I gave of India, the clusters that are taken, the north, west, south and east zone, each of the clusters will have a particular sample, let us say on the basis of strata, or let us say among the clusters some purposive sampling is done. First, a study is conducted on those samples, then the clusters are further sampled into by stratified sampling, etc. Then the study is conducted on those samples, and finally the samples that you get, which we have already discussed in multi-stage sampling, that is conducted in the end. So, basically you can have a comparison of samples within the universe as well. This is also a very effective method of sampling for in-depth investigation. Now, we have studied all the sampling techniques, we have understood their salient features, we have understood what kind of sampling techniques are more useful for some kind of studies and what kind of sampling techniques may not be very useful for some other kind of studies. However, there are certain principles and precautions of sampling which are common to all kinds of sampling techniques. So, you may take any sampling technique, but these principles are to be followed and they are to be adhered to strictly. Most important one is we have to clearly define our universe. So, we need to have a clear definition and a clear demarcation of our universe. We cannot have a vague idea or ambiguity, so that it would lead to a lot of ambiguities in the sample itself, which would lead to ambiguities and errors in the final study results. So, a clearly defined universe is the most important thing in sampling. Second thing is we need to have a well planned sampling design, because we are beginning with sampling and we have begun with a guiding light, that is a sampling design. We need to be very clear of what our sample size should be, what kind of proportions do we want for the sample from the universe. We need to plan for our expenses and we need to stick to our decided time frame. Next is accessibility of respondents. In the sampling design itself, we need to make sure that the kind of respondents that we are looking at are accessible or not. In today's times of technological advancements, there are many ways of accessing respondents like email, telephone calls, video conferencing, etc. But in each of the ways of communication, we need to make sure that the respondents that we are wanting to or we are seeking the data collection from are accessible and they are going to respond or not. Next thing is that the units that are included in the sample must be independent of each other. They must be distinct from each other, and the inclusion of one unit should not be dependent on the inclusion of another unit in the sample. So, they must be distinct from each other and they must be independent of each other. Next is that the researcher must conduct the sampling in an unbiased, objective and systematic manner. We have studied lot of techniques of sampling till now, and we know the technicalities of each of those sampling techniques. We know the salient features of those sampling techniques, we know the advantages, the disadvantages of those sampling techniques, and we also know which universe and which studies are the most suitable for. So, we need to know, or the researcher needs to know, that this is the kind of sampling technique that I would like to choose, and he has to make sure that the universe that he has selected and the kind of sample size that he wants, as well as the objectives of the research of his research, are in tandem or are in line with the choice of his sampling technique. So, he has to be very objective, he has to be systematic, he has to be organized, and he has to be unbiased as much as possible, because research without value and research without objectivity is no research at all. Next is that the researcher must avoid arbitrary alterations. So, the researcher should not give in to that urge of arbitrarily altering some things. If he has decided something, if he has planned for a sampling design and he has provided for points in the sampling design, he must adhere to those points and he should not be lazy in not adhering to those points. Sampling errors must be avoided as much as possible, that we have already seen how that can be done. We need to be very sure of what kind of sampling technique are we looking at, what kind of sampling technique do we want to use, and what kind of sample size are we wanting to seek. Next thing is we need to know what kind of data collection are we looking at, what are the respondents from whom we will be collecting data, and according to that we need to select the sampling technique. We need to be very unbiased and professional when we are selecting the sample, so that our own bias does not come into picture and we do not select a wrong sample. A wrongly selected sample would in the end affect the study results and it will lead to sampling errors. Finally, and definitely not the least important, is the objective of the entire research, which we talked about in the sampling design also. Objective of the research is the guiding light right from the time when we formulate the research problem to the time when we are writing the research report, and same holds true for sampling also. In the process of sampling, we need to constantly remind ourselves, or the researcher needs to constantly remind himself what is the objective of his research. Summing up, we read about concept of sampling, we knew about universe, we read about some important terms like universe, population parameters, we read about how a universe is composed of many units and how those units can be formed into a sample, which is a mini representation of the entire universe. We read about the importance of sampling, that why do we not study the whole universe, and in lieu of studying the universe we study the sample. Next, we studied the sampling design. There are various steps in a sampling design which need to be followed for preparing a particular design, and we need to follow it. If we have a guiding light, we will be able to do our sampling in a very systematic and organized manner. We studied various kinds of sampling techniques. Before that, we read about classification of sampling in probability, non-probability and mixed sampling. Thereafter, we did various types of sampling techniques and we studied their salient features, advantages and disadvantages. Now, we do know that what kind of sampling techniques would be more useful for a particular study and for a particular universe. Last but not the least, we studied important principles of sampling. In important principles of sampling, we came across some precautions that the researcher has to always take, whether he is making his sampling design or he is conducting sampling by using any of the sampling techniques that he has studied.